Alright guys, Kremp again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. The roster drama goes next level last night. Toronto Ultra officially confirmed their team for the upcoming season, but the drama with Heretics and even another organisation is continuing on behind the scenes. Toronto calling out Heretics in their announcement video, but also discussing a big drama in other esports over the last few days that will make things very spicy indeed when the new season gets underway. Very much intro to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. Gonna start here. Warzone and Black Ops 7. EWC 2026. Something's not yet confirmed. I think there was a bit of talk about when Rocket League is going to get confirmed. There will be some other ones on here because I think in the early days of the World Cup, actually Call of Duty was not the first to be confirmed precisely, but it actually now is. Whatever you think about Warzone competitive, it's obviously not in the best state right now for understandable reasons, but Black Ops 7 will be there, of course, should come as no real surprise. The question, I guess, is kind of when. EWC the last couple of years has been an 8-week tournament. In the first year, Champs was in July, and then the World Cup was in August. This most recent year, Champs was in June, and then the World Cup was in July. Now, what will they do next year? Who knows? Of course, it really depends when our World Championship is going to be. Also, where to some extent we think potentially Vegas, FaZe might be hosting it, although right now we're really not that sure. Then they will filter that in. Still, in an ideal world, I would like to have the World Cup before the World Championship. You know, I'd like to see the World Cup maybe happening at the start of July, and then the World Championship happen at the start of August, or something along those lines. But it is what it is. It's probably not going to change, but that was officially made official yesterday. Now, let's talk about some of the roster stuff. Beans says 5 likes, and he got more than that for no GA on the snipers in Black Ops 7. We've talked over the last few days who is going to snipe for each team if it is allowed. Presumably Dashy for OpTic. Kenny seemingly implied that he would be for the Thieves. Who knows about the other teams? FaZe might well try and get it GA'd again. We'll see. Beans, though, he wants to use it. You guys remember Beans with the sniper rifle? Modern Warfare 2 was pretty tasty. And yeah, he says, hopefully, no GA on the snipers in BO7. The GA rules still, it seems, are if 9 teams agree out of the 12 in the GA chat, then things will start to get banned. We'll see, right? If more than 3 teams, if there's 4 teams that want snipers in, then, you know, maybe they won't be banned this time, but I'm not going to hold out too much hope about that. Now, Beans also confirmed the other day that he signed a contract somewhere, and, well, it seems that he might have a teammate on that new roster as well, and that's going to be Afro. So Afro also locked in a contract last night. Afro first made his debut on the Ravens way back in Cold War. He turned heads pretty much immediately in that title, and yeah, the last couple of years he was still an impressive individual talent at times, but certainly on Modern Warfare 3 he was on Thieves, good at search and destroy, not quite so much in the respawns. They brought out JoeDeceives, they brought JoeDeceives back in. Afro stepped down to challenges, but last year in Black Ops 6 he was pretty godlike. I even remember talking to him in Dallas, the second event of the season, and he said Black Ops 6 is like his favourite COD he's ever played. He thought he was unreal at it, and the numbers do back that up. It was a shame that we didn't get to see him compete at the World Cup because there was drama with the Ravens. He was meant to go there, then as we know that never happened, right? But I think it's still good that he's getting an opportunity. Now, what does this mean for Cloud9 if this is true? The current rumour is that it's going to be Beans, it's going to be Afro, aBe potentially, also, well, formerly of Toronto Koi, they played at the World Cup. aBe alongside Afro and Beans. Afro on the SMG, aBe on the SMG, presumably Beans on kind of the flex. Looks like they're going to need an AR. Who do they look for, right? We think that Awakening is off the scene from Boston. Could he be an option? What other AR options could there be out there? Do they want to go down like a more veteran leadership perspective and say, all right, Slasher, it's time to go? Because we know that, you know, Slasher and Afro was a possibility on the Ravens for the champs, but that never happened, right? So there's a few options that Cloud9 still have. Is it going to be a good approach? I genuinely think that this team they're putting together might be better than what they had last year. They're not going to be championship contenders, I wouldn't expect. But last year's roster, you know, they had some serious firepower there on paper, but it was a bit of a disaster. And yeah, it's a shame that New York, a couple of years ago, were being competitive year in, year out, and now it doesn't feel like Cloud9 New York will be particularly any longer. But maybe this is a better approach than they took, at least in terms of value for money, compared to what they were maybe spending last year, compared to what they might be this time around. But speaking of Toronto, let's talk about this. So they confirmed yesterday what their roster is going to be. Now, the announcement video they did for this was actually pretty spectacular, so I'll kind of make it full screen as we run through it real quick, because there's a lot of hints here as to what's been happening over the last couple of months. As we know, JoeDeceives, he is the, the man who was definitely going to be staying on this Toronto team to build around going forward. He was looking to build a roster. Not much surprise that CleanX is not going anywhere from the team. He was always likely set to stay. I think JoeDeceives, if he was available, other teams would have been certainly interested in getting him. This is where things get kind of interesting though, right? So this is the Royale piece, and this is why there's a little bit of drama today. So Koi, as it is, just to quickly explain, it's still for now Toronto Ultra. We'll get into why and how in a second. But Koi with aBeZy and the other Spanish creators, it's the reason why they did that event hosted by Toronto in Madrid last year, is because of the Spanish thing. Those are the two big Spanish orgs, and they have a big rivalry, as in Koi and Heretics, of course, the other Spanish team. So Royale was on Heretics. Koi, I think even Toronto, they wanted Royale the year before, but it never happens. This time they did make it happen, and let's not forget all the talk about the verbal agreement, right? So they do this funny little skit in their announcement video when, they've got someone walking in the foreground here posing as the Heretic, I don't know, like Method Sick or something, one of the top guys at Heretics, and they basically say, all right, I'm going to build a squad that's going to dominate, and then Royale nods his head, right, verbally agreeing in Spanish, and then, well, a couple of seconds later, he gets the phone call from the Toronto team, and he's like, all right, I'm actually not in, I'm going over there. So we know that Royale had a lot to say about this. We also know that the Heretics organization had a lot to say about this when it happened a month and a little bit ago. And then they come up with this. Here's Insight sitting down, pretty sad, saying, all good things come to an end or whatever. And then he gets the text to say, all right, we are going to bring you back. So there was a bit of talk about this. I think Insight was maybe pretty close to departing. Not 100% sure what happened behind the scenes, whether it was contractual related stuff or whatever. But yeah, Insight's back. Not a massive surprise after we heard the rumors that Nastie was going to go to Boston. CleanX and Insight back at it again. CleanX this time, it seems, on the flex with Royale and JoeDeceives on the SMGs. It's also very much worth noting before we discuss further, this is Toronto Ultra, right? That is how they've announced it. We saw that for FaZe, when they announced their team, that they also rebranded to FaZe Vegas at exactly the same time. There have been lots of rumors that Toronto are going to become Toronto Koi or something like that, right? And that was who they represented, of course, at the World Cup. We thought that they were going to combine all of their brands. They may still do, they may just be biding their time a little bit. Do I like the Ultra brands? Yeah, right? Like, it's a little bit more of a pinky purple than we've had for Minnesota or for LAG. It's not quite the neon pink that we have for FaZe Vegas now. I like the Ultra branding. I think it would be a shame if it went away. But also there are good reasons that they might switch to Koi, because if they are going to choose one brand for that whole organization, it is going to be Koi rather than Ultra. That's just how it is going to be. So we'll see, right, whether they do further announce things. But they've announced this team as the Toronto Ultra roster, which maybe they feel like for the COD audience is still the way to go for the time being. So Insight had a few words to say, saying I'm back on the roster. Some of you guys counted me out. That's cool. Time to right some wrongs and remind a few people. See you soon. Demon emoji, fire emoji, right? So yeah, Insight's coming with the heat for the upcoming season. I do think Insight is a better player than he was getting credit for last season. He was getting roasted pretty hard, some of which was deserved, I thought. But I still think Insight has a fair bit to give. But I do understand the argument that Insight and CleanX have been together for a long time. They've won some things, but they've not really done well enough maybe to justify staying together for like 7 years or whatever it's been now. We'll see the data on that in a second. But Insight's like, this is going to be my year, right? He's going to turn it around. Maybe I'm biased because people say that, like, me, Insight, CleanX, Scrappy, whatever, like, are all somehow part of the same extended family, especially with the new glasses. Like, I kind of do see it. So anyway, CleanX and Insight is going to be their 7th title teaming alongside one another, which is crazy to think about. Simp and aBeZy, the only other duo that have made 7 different titles, but they're considered maybe the best duo of all time, right? So it's kind of a crazy story. CleanX CleanX, 7 seasons with Ultra, Simp, 7 seasons with FaZe. Those are the only 2 players in the league that are still signed to their original franchise team. And as Simp says, you know, hey, look at us, 7 years, what even happened to get to this point? So we discussed the Heretics drama to a certain extent, and that is still for sure there. They've hinted at it in their announcement video, but there is also another drama that is definitely worth talking about as well, and that's what aBeZy gets into right here. So last year, you guys remember that he tweeted out, of course, he's the top dog at Toronto, overactive, coy, whatever. He said after Scrap and Envoy went over to Thieves, he was like, look, we're going to be a better team than LA Thieves in 2025. Were they? Not really, right? Thieves still top the standings, but they did beat them some important occasions, and at the biggest tournaments, it's not like Thieves really delivered. Now he doubles down and says, we will be a better team than Gentlemates in 2026. Now, the reason why this is so relevant over the last few days is actually not something precisely that's happened in COD, but has happened elsewhere. Now, there was also rumours that maybe Gentlemates were interested, I think, in getting JoeDeceives, so maybe there was some sort of discussion between the organisations anyway. But the big drama has actually been in Valorant. So just to briefly explain this, the Koi team, so effectively Toronto with the same org, they got kicked out of Valorant for somewhat controversial and relatively unknown reasons. Now, aBeZy's theory on why they got kicked out was because Gentlemates, who are of course a very popular organisation, they had qualified to the Valorant League through Ascension. So basically in Valorant, if you win challenges, you qualify for the league next year, at least on like a rolling basis. Now, you know, let's talk about whether we should do that in COD or whatever, and it's not like Valorant does it perfectly, but it's something pretty interesting. Gentlemates, though, didn't do well enough to keep their spot on the rolling basis, so they got relegated again, and the rumour was that they were kicking out Koi in order to give Gentlemates the spot. Now, it wasn't guaranteed they were going to give Gentlemates the official partnered spot, but over the last few days, they went through what they said was an extensive investigation process to determine which team was best suited, and they chose Gentlemates as the best team. So as a result, Koi were kind of popping off about this, right? Because everyone had kind of theorized that, well, if they put Gentlemates in, then it almost kind of confirms the theory that they've kicked Koi out on questionable grounds in order to give their spot to somebody else. So as a result, between the Koi fans and the Gentlemates fans, things are getting pretty spicy, because a lot of the Gentlemates fans are saying, well, you guys are terrible, you didn't deserve your spot in the league, we do, and Koi fans are saying, well, this is unfair, you guys are, you know, fraudulent organisation, whatever. That's some of the drama, and, well, the juicy thing is that those orgs aren't both in Valorant anymore, right, because Koi got kicked out of the league, but those orgs are both in Call of Duty, and as a result, these guys have some of the biggest fans, right? You've got Gentlemates, massive French audience. You've got Koi and Toronto, but certainly Koi really, like, massive Spanish fan base as well. So things are going to get real juicy. And even you saw it at the end of the video, right? When they did the announcement, and aBeZy is right at the end here saying Vamos. So there's clearly the Spanish thing, and then there's also the Gentlemates thing, which is going to be a big rivalry, right? Like, and especially it's very plausible that we get some really juicy matches between these teams in the upcoming season. It's going to be a great couple of rivalries to keep your eyes on once the year gets underway. So tweet your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Just one final thing for you all, Neptune POV. Speaking, of course, of the Gentlemates that he may well be on next season. I've not really seen anyone moving quite like this yet, and you might say, okay, it looks a little bit clunky, and maybe to some degree it does. But still, I mean, look at him go, right? 1, 2, 3, wall bouncing backwards. He's flying up to the sky. That bit's pretty wild, right? Like when he goes like this, that looks like a jetpack game. So, you know, we'll see a little bit more of this as time goes on. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.